Mount Fuji, located on the island of Honshu, is the highest mountain in Japan, standing 3,776.24 meters. It is the second highest volcano located on an island in Asia, after Mount Kerinci on the island of Sumatra, and seventh highest peak of an island on Earth. Mount Fuji is an active stratovolcano that last erupted from 1707 to 1708. The mountain is located about 100 kilometers southwest of Tokyo and is visible from there on clear days. Mount Fuji's exceptionally symmetrical cone, which is covered in snow for about 5 months of the year, is commonly used as a cultural icon of Japan, and it is frequently depicted in art and photography, as well as visited by sightseers and climbers. Mount Fuji is one of Japan's 3 holy mountains along with Mount Tate and Mount Haku. It is a special place of scenic beauty and one of Japan's historic sites. It was added to the World Heritage List as a cultural site on June 22, 2013. According to UNESCO, Mount Fuji has inspired artists and poets and been the object of pilgrimage for centuries. UNESCO recognizes 25 sites of cultural interest within the Mount Fuji locality. These 25 locations include the mountain and the Shinto shrine, Fujisan Hongu Sengen Taisha, as well as the Buddhist Taizukiji head temple founded in 1290, later depicted by Japanese ukiyo-e artist Katsushika Hokusai. Etymology. The current kanji for Mount Fuji, and, mean wealth or abundant and a man of status respectively. However, the name predates kanji, and these characters are ateji, meaning that they were selected because their pronunciations match the syllables of the name but do not carry a meaning related to the mountain. The origin of the name Fuji is unclear, having no recording of it being first called by this name. A text of the 9th century, Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, says that the name came from immortal and also from the image of abundant soldiers ascending the slopes of the mountain. An early folk etymology claims that Fuji came from, meaning without equal or nonpareil. Another claims that it came from, meaning never-ending. Hirata Atsutane, a Japanese classical scholar in the Edo period, speculated that the name is from a word meaning, a mountain standing up shapely as an ear of a rice plant. British missionary John Batchelor argued that the name is from the Ainu word for fire of the fire deity Kamui Fuchi, which was denied by a Japanese linguist Kyosuke Kindaichi on the grounds of phonetic development. It is also pointed out that Hachi means an old woman and ape is the word for fire, ape Hachi Kamui being the fire deity. Research on the distribution of place names that include Fuji as a part also suggests the origin of the word Fuji is in the Yamato language rather than Ainu. Japanese toponymist Kanji Kagami argued that the name has the same root as wisteria and rainbow, and came from its long well-shaped slope. Modern linguist Alexander Vovine proposes an alternative hypothesis based on Old Japanese reading /pu nz/. The word may have been borrowed from Eastern Old Japanese /pu nusai/ meaning fire master. See Wicht, #etymology 3. Variations. In English, the mountain is known as Mount Fuji. Some sources refer to it as Fujisan, Fujiyama or, redundantly, Mount Fujiyama. Japanese speakers refer to the mountain as Fujisan. This san is not the honorific suffix used with people's names, such as Watanabe-san, but the Sino-Japanese reading of the character Yama used in Sino-Japanese compounds. In Nihon Shiki and Kunrei Shiki romanization, the name is transliterated as Huzi. Other Japanese names for Fuji Mount, which have become obsolete or poetic, include Fuji no Yama, Fuji no Takane, Fuyoho, and Fugaku, created by combining the first character of Fuji and mountain. History. Mount Fuji is an attractive volcanic cone and a frequent subject of Japanese art, especially after 1600, when Edo became the capital and people saw the mountain while traveling on the Tokaido Road. According to the historian H. Byron Earhart, in medieval times it eventually came to be seen by Japanese as the number 1 mountain of the known world of the 3 countries of India, China, and Japan. The mountain is mentioned in Japanese literature throughout the ages and is the subject of many poems. The summit has been thought of as sacred since ancient times and was forbidden to women until the Meiji era in the late 1860s. Ancient samurai used the base of the mountain as a remote training area, near the present-day town of Gotemba. The shogun Minamoto no Yoritomo held Yabusame in the area in the early Kamakura period. The first ascent by a foreigner was by Sir Rutherford Alcock in September 1860, who ascended the mountain in 8 hours and descended in 3 hours. 427 Alcock's brief narrative in the capital of the Tycoon was the first widely disseminated description of the mountain in the West. 421-27 Lady Fanny Parkes, the wife of British Ambassador Sir Harry Parkes, was the first non-Japanese woman to ascend Mount Fuji in 1867. Photographer Felix Beato climbed Mount Fuji 2 years later. On March 5, 1966, BOAC Flight 911, a Boeing 707, broke up in flight and crashed near the Mount Fuji Gotemba New 5th Station, shortly after departure from Tokyo International Airport. All 113 passengers and 11 crew members died in the disaster, which was attributed to the extreme clear air turbulence caused by lee waves downwind of the mountain. There is a memorial for the crash a short distance down from the Gotemba New 5th Station. Today, Mount Fuji is an international destination for tourism and mountain climbing. In the early 20th century, populist educator Frederick Starr Chautauqua lectures about his several ascents of Mount Fuji, 1913, 1919, and 1923, were widely known in America. A well-known Japanese saying suggests that a wise person will climb Mount Fuji once in their lifetime, but only a fool would climb it twice. It remains a popular symbol in Japanese culture, including making numerous movie appearances, inspiring the Infinity logo, and even appearing in medicine with the Mount Fuji sign. In September 2004, the manned weather station at the summit was closed after 72 years in operation. Observers monitored radar sweeps that detected typhoons and heavy rains. The station, which was the highest in Japan at 3,780 meters, was replaced by a fully automated meteorological system. Mount Fuji was added to the World Heritage List as a cultural site on June 22, 2013. However, the inscription became controversial after 2 professors at the Mount Fuji World Heritage Center, Shizuoka, were forced to quit their jobs because of academic and racial harassment by officials of Shizuoka Prefecture government in March 2018. Geography. Mount Fuji is a very distinctive feature of the geography of Japan. It stands 3,776.24 meters tall and is located near the Pacific coast of central Honshu, just southwest of Tokyo. It straddles the boundary of Shizuoka and Yamanashi prefectures. 4 small cities surround it: Gotemba to the east, Fuji Yoshida to the north, Fujinomiya to the southwest, and Fuji to the south. It is surrounded by 5 lakes: Lake Kawaguchi, Lake Yamanaka, Lake Sai, Lake Motosu, and Lake Shoji. They, and nearby Lake Ashi, provide views of the mountain. The mountain is part of the Fuji Hakone-Izu National Park. It can be seen more distantly from Yokohama, Tokyo, and sometimes as far as Chiba, Saitama, Tochigi, Ibaraki and Lake Hamana when the sky is clear. It has been photographed from space during a space shuttle mission. Geology. Mount Fuji is located at a triple junction trench where the Amurian Plate, Okhotsk Plate, and Philippine Sea Plate meet. These 3 plates form the western part of Japan, the eastern part of Japan, and the Izu Peninsula respectively. The Pacific Plate is being subducted beneath these plates, resulting in volcanic activity. Mount Fuji is also located near 3 island arcs: the southwestern Japan Arc, the northeastern Japan Arc, and the Izuban and Mariana Arc. Mount Fuji's main crater is 780 meters in diameter and 240 meters in depth. The bottom of the crater is 100 to 130 meters in diameter. Slope angles from the crater to a distance of 1.5 to 2 kilometers are 31 degrees minus 35 degrees, the angle of repose for dry gravel. Beyond this distance, slope angles are about 27 degrees, which is caused by an increase in scoria. Mid-flank slope angles decrease from 23 degrees to less than 10 degrees in the Piedmont. Scientists have identified 4 distinct phases of volcanic activity in the formation of Mount Fuji. The first phase, called Sen Cometake, is composed of an andesite core recently discovered deep within the mountain. Sen Cometake was followed by the Cometake Fuji, a basalt layer believed to be formed several 100,000 years ago. Approximately 100,000 years ago, Old Fuji was formed over the top of Cometake Fuji. The modern, New Fuji is believed to have formed over the top of Old Fuji around 10,000 years ago. Pre-Cometake started erupting in the Middle Pleistocene in an area 7 kilometers north of Mount Fuji. After a relatively short pause, Eruptions began again, which formed Kamatake volcano in the same location. These eruptions ended 100,000 years ago. Ashiatake volcano was active from 400,000 to 100,000 years ago, and is located 20 kilometers southeast of Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji started erupting 100,000 years ago, with Ko-Fuji forming 100,000 to 17,000 years ago, but which is now almost completely buried. A large landslide on the southwest flank occurred about 18,000 years ago. Shin Fuji eruptions in the form of lava, lapilli and volcanic ash, have occurred between 17,000 and 8,000 years ago, between 7,000 and 3,500 years ago, and between 4,000 and 2,000 years ago. Flank eruptions, mostly in the form of parasitic cinder cones, ceased in 1707. The largest cone, Omuro-yama, is one of more than 100 cones aligned NWSE and NESW through the summit. Mount Fuji also has more than 70 lava tunnels and extensive lava tree molds. Two large landslides are at the head of the Yoshida-Osawa and Osawa-Kshire valleys. As of December 2002, the volcano is classified as active with a low risk of eruption. The last recorded eruption was the Hawaii eruption, which started on December 16, 1707, and ended about January 1, 1708. The eruption formed a new crater and a second peak, named Mount Hawaii, halfway down its southeastern side. Fuji spewed cinders and ash which fell like rain in Izu, Kai, Sagami, and Musashi. Since then, there have been no signs of an eruption. However, on the evening of March 15, 2011, there was a magnitude 6.2 earthquake at shallow depth a few kilometers from Mount Fuji on its southern side. But according to the Japanese Meteorological Service, there was no sign of any eruption. Current eruptive danger. Following the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, there was speculation in the media that the shock may induce volcanic unrest at Mount Fuji. In September 2012, mathematical models created by the National Research Institute for Earth Science and Disaster Prevention suggested that the pressure in Mount Fuji's magma chamber could be 1.6 megapascals higher than it was before its last eruption in 1707. This was interpreted by some media outlets to mean that an eruption of Mount Fuji could be imminent. However, since there is no known method of directly measuring the pressure of a volcano's magma chamber, indirect calculations of the type used by NRESP are speculative and unverifiable. Other indicators suggestive of heightened eruptive danger, such as active fumaroles and recently discovered faults, are typical occurrences at this type of volcano. The Buddhist Hakeko believers of Nichiren Shoshu sect piously claim that the Daigoanzon mandala grants supernatural protection from the Buddhist deities against possible volcanic eruption of Mount Fuji through the daylight morning ritual of Ushitora Gongyo. Aokigahara Forest. The forest at the northwest base of the mountain is named Aokigahara. Folk tales and legends tell of ghosts, demons, yurei and yokai haunting the forest, and in the 19th century, Aokigahara was one of many places poor families abandoned the very young and the very old. Aokigahara is the world's third most popular suicide location after San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge and the Nanjing Yangtze River Bridge. Since the 1950s, more than 500 people have died in the forest, mostly suicides. Approximately 30 suicides have been counted yearly, with a high of nearly 80 bodies in 2002. The recent increase in suicides prompted local officials to erect signs that attempt to convince individuals experiencing suicidal intent to rethink their desperate plans, and sometimes these messages have proven effective. The numbers of suicides in the past creates an allure that has persisted across the span of decades. Many of these hikers mark their traveled routes by leaving colored plastic tapes behind as they pass, causing concerns from prefectural officials with regard to the forest's ecosystem. Adventuring. Transportation. The closest airport with scheduled international service is Mount Fuji Shizuoka Airport. It opened in June 2009. It is about 80 kilometers from Mount Fuji. The major international airports serving Tokyo, Tokyo International Airport in Tokyo and Narita International Airport in Chiba are approximately 3 hours and 15 minutes from Mount Fuji. Climbing routes. Approximately 300,000 people climbed Mount Fuji in 2009. The most popular period for people to hike up Mount Fuji is from July to August, while huts and other facilities are operating and the weather is warmest. Buses to the trailheads typically used by climbers start running on July 1st. Climbing from October to May is very strongly discouraged, after a number of high-profile deaths and severe cold weather. Most Japanese climb the mountain at night in order to be in a position at or near the summit when the sun rises. The morning light is called Goraiko, arrival of light. There are 4 major routes to the summit, each has numbered stations along the way. They are Kawaguchiko, Subashiri, Gotemba, and Fujinomiya routes. Climbers usually start at the 5th stations, as these are reachable by car or by bus. The summit is the 10th station on each trail. The stations on different routes are at different elevations. The highest 5th station is located at Fujinomiya, followed by Yoshida, Subashiri, and Gotemba. There are 4 additional routes from the foot of the mountain: Shojiko, Yoshida, Tsuyama, and Murayama routes. Even though it has only the 2nd highest 5th stations, the Yoshida route is the most popular route because of its large parking area and many large mountain huts where a climber can rest or stay. During the summer season, most Mount Fuji climbing tour buses arrive there. The next popular is the Fujinomiya route, which has the highest 5th station, followed by Subashiri and Gotemba. The ascent from the new 5th station can take anywhere between 5 and 7 hours, while the descent can take from 3 to 4 hours. Even though most climbers do not climb the Subashiri and Gotemba routes, many descend these because of their ash-covered paths. From the 7th station to near the 5th station, one could run down these ash-covered paths in approximately 30 minutes. Besides these routes, there are tractor routes along the climbing routes. These tractor routes are used to bring food and other materials to huts on the mountain. Because the tractors usually take up most of the width of these paths and they tend to push large rocks from the side of the path, the tractor paths are off-limits to the climbers on sections that are not merged with the climbing or descending paths. Nevertheless, one can sometimes see people riding mountain bikes along the tractor routes down from the summit. This is particularly risky, as it becomes difficult to control speed and may send some rocks rolling along the side of the path, which may hit other people. The 4 routes from the foot of the mountain offer historical sites. The Murayama is the oldest Mount Fuji route, and the Yoshida route still has many old shrines, tea houses, and huts along its path. These routes are gaining popularity recently and are being restored, but climbing from the foot of the mountain is still relatively uncommon. Also, bears have been sighted along the Yoshida route. Huts at and above the 5th stations are usually manned during the climbing season, but huts below 5th stations are not usually manned for climbers. The number of open huts on routes are proportional to the number of climbers. Yoshida has the most while Gotemba has the fewest. The huts along the Gotemba route also tend to start later and close earlier than those along the Yoshida route. Also, because Mount Fuji is designated as a national park, it is illegal to camp above the 5th station. There are 8 peaks around the crater at the summit. The highest point in Japan, Kenga Mine, is where the Mount Fuji radar system used to be. Climbers are able to visit each of these peaks. Paragliding. Paragliders take off in the vicinity of the 5th station Gotemba parking lot, between Subashiri and Hoizan Peak on the south side of the mountain, in addition to several other locations, depending on wind direction. Several paragliding schools use the wide sandy/grassy slope between Gotemba and Subashiri parking lots as a training hill. In culture. Shinto mythology. In Shinto mythology, Kunino Tokotachi is one of the 2 gods born from something like a reed that arose from the soil when the earth was chaotic. According to the Nihon Shoki, Kana Hanasaku Yahaime, wife of Ninigi, is the goddess of Mount Fuji, where Fujisan Hongu Sengen Taisha is dedicated for her. In ancient times the mountain was worshipped from afar. The Asama shrine was set up at the foothills to ward off eruptions. In the Heian period, volcanic activity subsided and Fuji was used as a base for Shugendo, a syncretic religion combining mountain worship and Buddhism. Worshippers began to climb the slopes, and by the early 12th century, Matsudai Shonin had founded a temple on the summit. Fuyiko was an Edo period cult centered around the mountain, founded by an ascetic named Hasegawa Kakagyo. The cult venerated the mountain as a female deity, and encouraged its members to climb it. In doing so they would be reborn, purified and able to find happiness. The cult waned in the Meiji period, and although it persists to this day, it has been subsumed into Shinto sects.